All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're going to discuss some of what I think is a really exciting chapter. A lot of decisions have to be made, but we're dealing with chapter 5, and that deals with market segmentation. You know what this really is all about? It's you deciding who should you go after. All right, who should you be selling, or promoting and selling your products or services to? Okay, and what we're really going back to, let's go back to chapter 1, where we're talking about limited resources, unlimited choices. So when you look at a product or service as a good marketer, you're trying to figure out who do I go after, but minimize the resources I need to get enough customers to stay in business and work on a profit. Okay, so you may say, oh, well, there's a huge market for your product. Well, you know what? That's maybe true. But ultimately what you have to figure out is, of your market, you really have to get down here to where the target is. And there's a big difference between your market, who's the potential, and your target. It's if you use a gun or a rifle. Up here is a shotgun. You're shooting and maybe you're going to hit somebody that might buy your product or service. Down here, it's like a rifle shot. That one has a much higher likelihood of buying your product and using it and doing it repeatedly. So how do you get from this point, where you have this huge market, down here? All right, so how do we do that? Essentially, market segmentation is demassifying, that's demassifying the market. So instead of this huge market, you're getting down to that the nitty-gritty, essentially, who's going to buy it. So two things are going to happen there. When you move from your market down to the target, you're going to get an increased homogeneity of the group. So up here you might say, for example, if you're selling a product to a car industry, might be all drivers within 100 miles of you. Okay, is that a market or is that a target? It's really a market. Now, but when you look at your product and say, now really who has the high likelihood to buy? And that's the second thing you want to take a look at. Get people that are similar, but also who have a greater need, or that you have a higher likelihood to sell to them and a higher likelihood that they will buy. So you're going to increase homogeneity, going from market to target, and also increasing the likelihood that these will buy percentage-wise than these. Fine. So now going back to the car. You're selling a product to people that drive cars. Okay, that's your mass market, but then you're really trying to say, now, who has the high likelihood to buy? So are these people that have older cars? Maybe your product is about something that they're going to use to repair your car or increase its appearance. Maybe you're selling a new car wax. Fine. New cars don't need it, but cars that have been out in the sun a lot, maybe 3 to 5 years, that's who your target is. So not just all drivers and car owners, and now you're going all car owners, but that have older cars. And maybe older cars that are in certain geographical areas, because maybe the weather has an impact on the need for your product. So that's what you're trying to do, and segmentation is to try to find what are the criteria that will help you narrow down to what to the group of people that are really buy your product. Now, you might say, oh, well, how do I do that? Or no, I'll just go after the mass market. Well, let's take a look at McDonald's, for example. They have target audiences, about 35 of them. So when they look at who's their audience, they break it up into about 35 different chunks. Disneyland, or Disney, actually breaks up, for their theme parks, the market into about 42 or more unique target audiences. So now you're thinking, how do you do that? Okay, well, what you have to identify, do some of your research, identify, are you selling to consumers, are you selling to businesses? Fine. But now go back, and there are 4 primary categories. So you may look at your customers and say, of the demographics, that's category 1, what are the things such as age, income, religion, geographical location, household income, and what are those? Which of those significantly influence the purchase of your product? Now, not all of them do, and actually in that list, none of them might with certain products. Okay, but you identify which ones, and you don't just say, well, age or geography. You have to say which age range, for example. So maybe a high income group isn't going to buy your car wax, but a lower income group, meaning maybe the people that have a household income of $35,000 to $70,000. That's your household income. That's the group that has the high likelihood to buy. Fine, that's who you go after. It's not that you wouldn't sell to a different group, a high income if they wanted it, but that's your target audience. That's one component of the target. Okay, you then also might look at psychographics. That's the second category. Demographics, then psychographics. Those are the values, the lifestyles, the opinions, the attitudes of your target audience. That these things might influence significantly the buying of your product. So you go back and say, are there any lifestyles that may buy this car wax? Well, people that drive a lot, they may have a higher likelihood to buy. Or people that live in certain geographical areas, or that value being out in the desert, shall we say. Fine. So now you go after people that have older cars, so the car ownership is older. They're between, 18 to 30 years old, fine, and household income of 35 to 70,000, great. But now they value their car. They want to hold on to it. That's their value. Then you want to take a look at the third category, and that's benefits sought. So what benefit are they looking for out of your product? Okay, and with that you can deliver. So are people buying this wax, or are they trying to promote it based on the increased life of the product or the increased attractiveness of your car as a result of this car wax you're going to sell? Because the benefit is not a feature. It's not what it's made of. It's not the color, the size, the shape. It's what does the customer get out of the product. So it's that increase or decrease. So increased sales, increased reliability, increased attractiveness, shall we say, or decreased cost, decreased waste. Those increases or decreases is really what we're buying from for a product for. So maybe someone's looking for increased attractiveness of the car and also increased durability. Fine. And then the last thing you want to look at when you're looking at segmentation is what situation might people buy your products for, or what's their use pattern. So for example, might they use it every week, every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks? Does that significantly influence the buying of your product? So for example, if you look at Starbucks, or the airlines for that matter, they break down their categories of customers by how frequently they come in. So are you the person that goes to Starbucks once a month, once a week, 7 times a week? They want the people that come in infrequently, but they really want to keep the people that come in frequently. And that's what you'll do here. So you may find that some of in the car wax example, that the people that wax their car or like to wash the car, and their habit is once a week, and they're going to wax it once a week. That's the one you want to go after, okay? Or under what circumstances what's the situation? Someone might buy your product, okay? So are they going into a parade with their car? So they want it to look good, okay? Are they getting married? Okay, you want it to look good at that time. And that's what you're looking for. So now you have a list of a few criteria: demographics, age, I think we said 18 to 25, household income 30 to 75,000. Lifestyle is that they value attractiveness and they happen to do a lot of activity in the desert. Benefits sought, those people that are looking for increased attractiveness and increased durability of the product, and that, by the way, they wash their cars once a week and wax it once a week. That's who, out of that big mass, that's your target you go after. And that's really what you have to do. So you have to find and identify those criteria that fit the customer group. And by the way, you have to be able to get to those customers. So now that you have the descriptor, the criteria that make up this target market, can you get to them? Do they watch certain TV shows? Do they read certain magazines? Do they listen to the radio? Are they on Facebook? Are they on MySpace? What is it? How can you get in touch with them? And then ultimately, through promotions, which come in subsequent chapters, how do you communicate to them and persuade them to buy or sell, buy your product? So remember, by doing this, by the way, you're going to have a higher likelihood of getting people to buy your products. The percentage, remember, if you go after a market of 1 million and you only sell 1,000, well, the percentage of that is very low. But by cutting it down to maybe that fit that criteria, maybe 2,000 households fit that criteria, but because you've really narrowed down the options and identified those criteria, you may be able to, out of the 1,000 or 2,000 people, you may be able to get a 20% response rate because you've identified these characteristics, which we described, influence the purchase of the product. Now also you want to take a look at, does religion play a role? Well, not in car wax, so don't include it. But some products or services that you might be selling, religion may play a big role. Okay, well, it might be in clothing, it might be geographical location close to the church or something. So fine, religion may play a big role. If someone goes to church a lot versus not very much or not at all, they buy and sell, they buy products differently. And that's what you need to find out about your customers. But some of these criteria, they have no relevance to the purchase of the product, then don't address it. So you're really trying to find that criteria. Again, where does this apply? Go back to chapter 2 where we were dealing with research. So you're dealing with demographics, psychographics, benefits sought, and then your use patterns. And you have to find out which ones and figure out which ones will do it. We do that a lot over at my company and really identify who best can benefit from this product. But it's an ongoing process. You may actually, remember how we talked about product development and especially new market or market development. Great, that's what segmentation is all about. You may be selling a product to a specific existing audience, but you may say, well, who else can we sell it to? Who else needs your product and benefits? So you may say, okay, well, if we shift the criteria to a different income or use pattern or benefits sought, you may find this is a whole new market. In fact, if you really look at it here in the United States, we have the disposable diaper industry. Great, that's for obviously infants to typically 3 years old. Okay, that's huge. Well, that industry, as the birth rates started to taper off, the industry needed to keep the production going, so they said, now who else might be able to buy diapers? Great. Well, what did they do? They actually flipped the audience from going from 0 to 3 years old. They kept going after that, but then they identified a market of senior citizens who have a need for diapers, because of health incapacitation and so on. So that's become a huge market. It may not be 50% of the disposable diaper industry, but it may be 5 to 10%, and they're making some big money off of that. Okay, and that's really what you want to do. So look at your product. If you have to go after a new market, or if you do decide to do that, which of these criteria are most important that you can address that'll get them to buy it? Think about it, for example, on the cell phone. You have the typical cell phones, the Android, the iPhones, for example. But there's a market out there for simplicity. And in the United States here, we have a company that's called Jitterbug, and they have a cell phone that has big keys, and it's targeted to the senior citizens because they don't need all the what we call bells and whistles or all the features of the product. They just need to make a phone call and receive phone calls. So it's a basic phone. It's very inexpensive, but the phone companies actually get them to buy phone service. So the phone company's thrilled, but they identified certain criteria that these older folks fit into, and they address it, and they make some significant money. So your objective is to find what criteria significantly will influence the purchase of your products or services, and that's what you address. So go from a market down to the target and have multiple targets ultimately. Good luck.